The root cause of the crisis, as far as I am concerned, is refusal to accept the dictates of democracy. Right? Because what we did, we advertised the opening of the position for flag bearer in the party, which is what our rules say. And as far as I know, we are the only party that does such an open selection of its flag bearer. So we advertised the position, people applied, and anybody who joined the party the day before we advertised the positions could have applied. It's as open as that. So people applied. We had 11 applicants, including Hussein Dabo, and we started the process. So the process is interviews by a vetting panel selected by the Central Committee, and then interviews and consultations with the grassroots organizations and structures. So we did that. And then the final phase is the selection at the Central Committee level and then the National Executive Committee. So we went through that process, and the selection was carried out transparently and even supervised by the IEC. Because that's one thing we are very proud of. We don't supervise our own elections. Every single election, from councillor to flag bearer, are supervised by IEC, which for us says that we trust the IEC to do the right thing, and we're hoping that they will do the right thing, not only at the party level, but at the national level. So we brought them in to conduct elections. So we are as transparent as you can get. Now, the country goes ahead and selects a flag bearer.
You mean the party goes ahead rather than country?
Well, when I say country, because most of the Gambia now is leaning UDP.
Oh, okay.
So we go ahead and select a flag bearer. Once that is done, I think the natural thing would be we all fall behind that person and move forward. Because nobody contested the process. Because it was as open as it can be. We went ahead, we selected a flag bearer based on clearly predefined criteria. This election went ahead as smoothly as you can get. The people made their choice. Because what we say is, let the people choose. National Executive Committee or Central Committee, we should not sit in our corner and select a flag bearer. That would be undemocratic. We contribute to it, but we are elected by the UDP militants at a Congress. But we see we don't just do it for them. We take it also to the people in the country and say, here it is. These are these people who applied. What do you think? Who should be our flag bearer? And they contribute from the ward level to the regional level. They are all brought in to give their opinions and rate the candidates, etc., and they are all rated. So it's on the basis of that rating that we make a selection. The final selection is that everybody who goes to the final phase should have at least 70% average in the two selections, the interview and the consultations. If you have that, you are entitled to go to the final phase of the selection. And for that, we choose the top three. Those top three would go to the final phase of the selection. This year's, only Hussein Dabo had over 70% average. Nobody else met that criterion. But we said, to be able to nurture democracy in this country, we've got to be seen to do the right things also. Not just do it, but be seen to do it. So we said, look, nobody else got the cut mark of 70%, but let's bring in two extra. The second and third, even though they didn't make the cut, they should be brought in to give them a chance. So we brought in the second and third, who were Amadou Sane and Bori Toure. And then before this election, we usually have consultations with the Council of Elders, and they try to see if they can reach a consensus, get one candidate to avoid elections. Because elections can be contentious sometimes, but this time they didn't, manage to reach a consensus. So we went for the elections, and Hussein Dabo won, very clearly. So that should have been the end of the process. We moved forward because that was what everybody said. You remember when Yanks Dabo came out and said, if Talib wins, I would go somewhere else. And we said, no, that's wrong. When the party selects somebody, we all fall behind him. And everybody else said that in the party. So that should have been the end of the story. Hussein Dabo wins, we all fall behind him and campaign for him. We've done that for national elections all the time. We've done it for the council elections, for the chairmanship elections, for mayoral elections, NAM elections. So let's do that again and continue. But some people felt that, well, the people's choice is not consistent with our choice, so we'll leave. That's pretty unfortunate, because you cannot have it both ways. You cannot say, I want democracy to prevail, we're going to do what it takes to make democracy entrenched in this country, and when the people speak, you say, I won't have it that way. It's my way or the highway. That doesn't work. It's just like national elections. If somebody is elected president and fairly and squarely, you cannot say, no, I don't accept that. You walk away. No. If there is reason to contest it, like we did in 2021, you go to court, you contest it, and you adduce evidence. In this case, nobody contested anything in the election process.
Where could they have gone to contest anything in the election process?
To start with the IEC's officers who were there.
They could have gone to the IEC?
The officers who were there, yes. They could go to them and contest it there. And they could have gone to Central Committee and National Executive and contested there as well.
Yeah, but they're saying it's only Dabo's people who are there.
No, that's not true. That's not true. You see, the Central Committee and the National Executive are elected by people who are UDP militants. And a few positions are left open which are filled by the Secretary General in consultation, because just like they appointed NAMs, to make sure that minorities are represented. And in the case of UDP, Usienu represented differently abled. He elected women. He represented minority ethnic groups, to make sure that everybody has a say in.
How many of them?
Oh, the women, I think about almost a dozen.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. And each of them could cast a vote.
Oh, yes. Yes, they all cast a vote.
That's a lot. I mean,
that's a lot.
Don't you feel that if these people are chosen by Usainu Dabo, their loyalty would be more to Usainu Dabo in any, contested situation than any other person?
No. You see, because those people are chosen after consultation with the National Executive Committee. These are people usually who have contested for positions in the party, or who are militants in the party, very strong and very vocal. We see them and we say, this one deserves to be here, and bring them in for their independence.
Barrow could argue the same thing when he appointed Fabakary Tombong-Jatta to be Speaker and Sidin Jai to be Deputy Speaker.
Yeah,
you all rose up in arms.
Except that those two went to him and said, we can help you, but you have to throw out UDP first. So that was a quid pro quo there, So that was different. Secondly, we knew what those people did under the Jammeh regime. So you cannot tell us that those people are independent-minded and they are here just for the country. No. Those people are there for themselves and for Barrow. Okay. That was the reason there. Now, the other people who are appointed into these positions, you have that. So we have people also with disabilities, because we believe that nobody can speak for them better than themselves. So we bring them in, and they are also in the Central Committee and the National Executive, right? We bring in ethnic minorities, we bring in religious minorities, to make sure that everybody has a voice. That is the thing. And those people know once they are elected by Dabo, they cannot be removed until the next elections, etc. So they are given that security of tenure and independence. And these are independent-minded people you wouldn't be able to bully anyway. And that's the thing about, in fact, the whole of the National Executive Committee. You attend our meetings, it's rowdy. Because we fight over things, we argue, and, saying it's just one voice. And most of the time he doesn't even speak. He opens it, chairs it, and he comes in only at the end to give a kind of a roundup and a consensus, summary. But it's us. We are the ones who sit there and decide these things. And I think in that meeting, anybody who wants to play sycophant, I think will feel out of place. So fortunately, we don't have that.
So how do you respond to concerns about internal democracy and transparency?
I find it difficult to fathom that, because the internal democracy has been there. We have opened the applications, everybody applied, and everybody went through the same process. And nobody was given any preferential treatment. I'll give an example. Mr. Dabo, for the interview, was asked to come at 4 p.m. He got there at 10 to 4. And the process delayed considerably. Lamin Dabo was before him, and he hadn't even gone in yet. So Dabo sat there from 10 to 4 until about 5:40.
Really?
Yeah. Patiently waiting for his turn before he could go in. He wasn't given any preferential treatment because he's a Secretary General and party leader and an elderly statesman. No. He was treated like every single candidate. And he went in and did his interview and came out. So that is the process we have. I mean, what better can we do? So you go through all of that, and you come out saying, okay, as usual, we have fought it out very seriously, people have campaigned vigorously, and it's over now. We have to put that behind us and we move on. Just to be told we're leaving because we don't accept how this election was. What do you want? You see, because the whole country sees that all of those who have resigned are people who were campaigning vigorously for Talib, and Talib withdrew, which is his constitutional right. And we accept that, and we respect that. They should also... Talib didn't withdraw from the party, he just withdrew from his position as organizing secretary. Why did these people withdraw? In protest for what?
What do you think?
What I think, honestly, is that they were unhappy that they didn't have it their way. It was Talib or nothing. They didn't go in for democracy, say we go for it, we fight it very seriously and very vigorously. If we win, we move forward. If we don't win, we fall behind the winner and then we move and wait for the next time. So they didn't get it their way, they left. That is also their right. But don't try to sugarcoat it or make it look like UDP is bad. It's not the case. Okay? And finally, I think the impression I get, and that is just Lamin, not anybody else. These are people who are probably trying to go ahead and encourage Talib to start a party, which again is his right. We have seen the former campaign manager go ahead with his deputy. Okay, that's Karafosonko and Lopi. They are going around the country and collecting ID cards, etc. That is the process to forming a party, which is perfectly right by us.
Okay, we'll get
so
into...
do that, but don't just go and telling people wrong stories. It's not right. You've been heard things about tribalism, which is not there.
So Talib remains in the party as far as we know. He's only resigned from his position as National Organizing Secretary.
Exactly.
All right, and stood down before the final selection as flag bearer contestant.
Exactly.
Do you believe the UDP, the party, still speaks with one voice, or have we seen, the fragmentation of the party's core identity? No, the party is still intact. We still speak with one voice. We still debate issues vigorously because there is no unity of thought in the UDP. We still discuss issues vigorously and we challenge each other and we reach a consensus and we move on. That is still there. That debate is healthy. And if these people who resigned stayed, we would have continued the same debate anyway. So that debate is healthy and is still there. And that's not going to change because we have people of strong will and character in the party who are not going to bend to anybody's will. So we still discuss those issues and very strongly and we move forward. Because democracy is all about compromise as well. Because when we go there, I have a strong position and strong view on something, somebody has it, and we discuss it. And we reach a consensus. And we move on. Which is extremely important because once we get to power, we need to have the same compromises as we move along. You're not going to have it all your way. In fact, if you do, it's dangerous for the country. So we need to have a position where we'll reach compromise. And then everybody will know we have to find the middle of the road and we move on. If you have it all your way, just as I keep saying, Mandela, when he didn't get the supermajority in South Africa when he came to power, he said, I'm happy. He was happy?
Yeah, he said, I'm happy we didn't get this. Because if you had the supermajority, we would have become arrogant. We wouldn't have negotiated with anybody. We wouldn't have reached a compromise. We would have bulldozed our program through Parliament and everywhere in the country. Now we'll have to listen to other people. We have to discuss with other people and take on their views, which I thought was wonderful. Everybody else most people would have said, I want the supermajority so I can do what I want. He said, no, I'm happy we didn't get this. So that's why we are in the UDP too, and the party is still intact and very strong.
A few days after, Talib announced, the withdrawal of his flag bearer application and also that he was resigning from his position in the executive as National Organizing Secretary, you were quoted in sections of the media as saying that, you will, lead the process of reconciling with Talib. Have you started that? How much progress have you made? Yeah, actually, I was surprised to read that in the Standard. You were surprised to read it?
Yeah, I didn't even know about it until somebody drew my attention to it, because the day you received Al-Manneh, I was fielding calls, because, these days have been difficult. People are calling every time with suggestions, with complaints, with ideas to move forward. So sometimes I field calls until 1, 2 in the morning. And I was there sitting, trying to listen to Coffee Time, and the calls were coming all through, so I couldn't listen. I missed parts of the interview. And then somebody told me, and said, "Oh, apparently you are doing a reconciliation." I said, "Of what?" He said, "Of the party, between the party and Talib." I said, "Where's that coming from?" I said, "Oh, it's in the Standard." So I looked at it. I said, "Where's this coming from?" So I wrote to the Standard. I said, "Where's this coming from?" I never said anything like that to you.
Nobody ever interviewed you by the paper?
No. Omar Ba called me. And I think it was the day Talib resigned, which was around that time. I can't remember exactly when. He called me and said, "So where is the party going from here now?" I said, "Oh, we all fall behind the party leader who has been selected as the flag bearer, and we move forward. We bring the party together again. This is an election. Once election is over, we bring everybody back into the fold, and we move on as a party, and we do the right thing for the country." So those who contested, nobody is going to be ostracized. Nobody is going to be left by the roadside. They had a right to contest in a democratic election. They contested, they lost. Unfortunately, those who were there came up and hugged Mr. Dabo and wished him well and told him they are with him. He said, "So that's what's going to happen. We're going to come together as a party and move forward." And somehow that ended up being me leading a reconciliation effort. I said, "No, that never happened. And it was never said. I was never asked by the party to do anything like that. I never offered to do anything like that. So I don't know where that's coming from. If other people do it, I would say, okay, good, go ahead, because we need to bring the country together, not just the party. So that would be okay with me. But yes, that's a democratic approach that would be welcome. But I never said anything like that. I never was given that kind of responsibility, and I'm not doing anything of that sort right now. What we're doing now is to start working on our campaign for 2026, developing material, we're developing approaches, we're developing our strategies, and fine-tuning our policies and programs. That's what we're doing. But, nothing else.
On Monday, the 22nd of September 2025, it's Coffee Time with Peter Gomez, and we are with Mr. Lamin Manneh, Assistant Secretary for External Affairs of the United Democratic Party. Lamin, you've become more visible in recent months. What's the reason for your re-engagement with domestic politics? A lot of people, point to the fact that for many years you were not even living in this country.
Yeah.
You were working outside the country, making, God knows, tons of monies, away from here. Nobody heard you during that Jammeh era when your party leader was being persecuted and all of that. So they look at you now, you're visible, you're vocal, you're seen everywhere, and they say, why now?
Yeah,
so what's the reason behind your re-engagement with Gambian politics?
In fact, people say that a lot. Where was he before? Yeah. I was an international civil servant working for a development finance institution, African Development Bank to be precise, which prevents us from engaging in national politics overtly. What we do behind the scenes. And we do it to the best of our ability without tarnishing the reputation of the institution we work for, because it's not allowed. Because we're supposed to be neutral. When you see people say, "Oh, IMF, World Bank, ADB," when they come here, they don't say anything, they just support the government. I say, but that's not our role. Our role is to finance development, to advise governments, and to tell them in closed-door meetings what is going wrong in their face. But when you come out, we don't do the advocacy. That is for us, national institutions and civil society organizations to do. When I was at the ADB, what I did behind the scenes, and I did it quietly. So I couldn't. I give, for example, an example of when Musa, I hope you don't mind this, Musa Silla, who was the Minister of Trade and Industry. Mm-hmm. That's just one example of many. Mm-hmm. Musa was Minister of Trade and Trade, Employment and Regional Integration. He came to Abidjan. Mm-hmm. I was based in Abidjan at the time, working for the ADB, and when he comes, we are together because we are friends from high school and university. He came, he said, "Big brother, I've got a problem here. Jammeh wants me to sign this agreement with some service providers in Cote d'Ivoire here to generate electricity and to manage waste, etc. Well, this contract looks awful to me. Since you studied law, I want you to take a look at it." I looked at it, I said, Musa, you are in trouble. Say, if you sign this, Gambians will hang you one day. If you don't sign it, you're going to be fired by Jammeh. It's a difficult choice, but you have to make that choice. I say, if you ask me, I would say, don't sign this, because this is absolutely against the interests of the country, and you're going to pay for this. And he said, you're right, that's how I feel. I wanted to get somebody else's opinion. I said, well, that's my honest opinion. He refused to sign it. He came back and gave it back to Jammeh. He refused to sign it. And as I told him, he got fired. Naturally. Jammeh took the energy sector to the State House at the time and moved on, and Musa was fired. So we got him contracts at the ADB to be working, because we want to keep our good people independent and doing the right thing. So those sorts of things. Musa worked with us for a couple of months getting contracts before he got snapped by the Islamic Development Bank. He's a brilliant guy, and he went on to have a very wonderful career at the Islamic Development Bank. There are many other cases like that we do behind the scenes. The latest was just before, during the impasse, what we did when I was sitting in Abidjan with at the time, the diplomatic advisor to Macky Sall, Maguette Sey. What we did, I don't need to come back on all of those, but we do these things behind the scenes.
It would help if you did.
Yeah, with Maguette Sey, for example, when things were difficult, the ambassador of Senegal in Côte d'Ivoire at the time, Abdoulahat Souran, was my classmate in law school in France. And I went to him and said, look, we are in a difficult situation, and you are our closest neighbors. You can help with, a lot of things is happening in the Gambia. You see what is happening, we're following. I said, you guys need to help. He said, we are helping, but I'm going to put you in touch with Macky Sall's diplomatic advisor. So he put me in touch with Maguette Sey, and we started discussing, giving him ideas, telling him what we need to know, and what they need to know, and what could be done. So we did a lot with Maguette Sey, and it got to a point where when the Jammeh refused to go and he was holding, we discussed it, and then we discussed a number of things. And the people here were doing a great job, At the time, the Halifa Salahs, the Maifatis, etc., they were doing a great job here. But we were doing what we could behind the scenes too. And at one point, Maguette told me, okay, we're going to have to dislodge him somehow. I said, we need to, because we cannot let this happen. And he told me about the Nigerian jets where you're going to fly over State House and all of so a whole series of things. So we called some people here to alert them as to what was happening, etc. And the Jammeh list of people who were on that blacklist, asked him to share it with me too, but he wouldn't. So we give him names, Is X on the list? No. Is X? No. Why? Yeah. So we got those things. And alerted those people to say, look, stay out of harm's way. Go leave your homes, go somewhere else, or get extra security, etc. So a lot of things during that time.
I was apparently on that list, and nobody, called me to say, get out of harm's way. So I was dispensable to you at the time.
I didn't have your coordinates at the time. But you were on that list. I didn't have your coordinates.
Thanks to the TRRC.
Yeah.
That's why we knew.
Yeah. So I called about a dozen people here. Maguette wouldn't share the list with me, but he confirmed to me A is on the list or B is not on the list, etc. And I called those people. The ones I had phone numbers for, the ones I said, contact A, B, and C. Tell them this is happening. So we don't know which way this is going. If it goes wrong, they could be in harm's way. Let them be careful. If they can leave the country for a while, let them leave. If they cannot, go to the countryside or move to somebody else's house where you wouldn't be traced. One of them told me, I hope you don't mind, to former Sise. Former said,
community development.
Exactly. He said, I'm going nowhere. I'm staying home. I said, don't play the hero. He said, I'm going nowhere. I said, okay, then get at least extra security for your house. He said, I can try, but I'm going nowhere. A number of them moved. Some said, I'm not moving. Like the former, he said, I'm not moving. I'm not scared of this guy. I said, it's not a question of being scared. You have got kids, you've got family. Don't play the hero. He said, I'm not moving. He refused to move.
So you helped save lives.
So we did a lot of that and many more things that we don't need to say, because when we do these things, we do it as we say, fi sabilillah, we do it for the sake of God and the country. We don't need to advertise that. We don't need to come out and say, this is what we did, this is what we did, because that is kind of blowing our own horns. And what we do it because we believe we owe this country. What we have become, we owe it to this country. So we need to give back. When Jammeh came to power, I was already working at the ADB. I had my projects, I had my kids going to schools, etc. I was offered jobs here. I turned them down because I was not going to work in that system. I was offered many types of jobs. I refused. I continued what I was doing there. At the ADB, when the coup happened, everybody put Gambia under sanctions, except the ADB.
Why?
Because we had people at the ADB who were lobbying for it. Key among them, C.D. Sane, who was Permanent Secretary, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance. He went on to become minister here at one point on the JAME towards the end. C.D. was one of the people. He was Assistant Executive Secretary at the time. C.D. did a lot of lobbying, and many other people lobbied there. So ADB never put Gambia under sanctions.
Why did ADB understand, explanations when other multilateral institutions wouldn't?
Because ADB is an African institution, and it's much closer.
Supporting a military takeover? That was unconstitutional.
No, it's not supporting a military takeover. It's supporting social programs in the country to avoid the country sinking into total chaos.
Yeah, but channels would be funneled through, either government institutions directly or government-leaning institutions.
Some of them went to government directly, some of the funds, but not much. A lot of them went into institutions which were working alongside the government, like parastatals, like civil society organizations. It went into those sort of things.
And JAME had his claws in all of those institutions.
Yes.
They did what he wanted.
Yes.
Not what the ADB or other funding agencies wanted.
But if he stopped it at the time, the Gambia would have been completely destitute. And the Gambian people are the ones who are going to suffer the most. JAME and his cronies were still going to get by. You remember the Taiwan grant? They dipped their hands into that and made and feathered their nest just in case something went wrong. They were ready for that. But the Gambian people needed assistance to be able to do certain things to avoid the country descending into chaos. And particularly not to get the Gambian people into situations of starvation and that. No, we had to do something. Sometimes you take the lesser of two evils and you do that. And the lesser of two evils at the time was to at least provide some funding to the Gambia to keep it afloat. Otherwise, it would have been horrible.
Okay.
So these things happen, and so many other things I don't want to talk about because it's like blowing my horn. So, and I don't owe the ones who ask that, I don't owe them any explanation. I know what I did, and sometimes you need to say some of these things, because it's important too. But what we did behind the scenes, we did. Right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But now I'm much more vocal because now my time is mine. My voice is mine. What I say is Lamin Manneh speaking, not the ADB, and I'm free to say what I say.
And when did you become a member of the UDP? UDP was only formed in 1996, 2 years after JAME had seized power, when you were already working with the ADB.
Yeah.
When did you become a member of the UDP, and how did you support the party from distance?
I'd rather not talk about that, because that would be like, as I said, blowing my horn.
Okay.
When
did you join the UDP?
When I came back formal and joined formally, that was in 2020. 2020, I came back. I formally joined. Post-JAME.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Then I formally joined because then I had just retired and the conflict is no longer there. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer an international civil servant who cannot engage in politics. Then my time was mine, my voice was mine. Then I joined the UDP and became a full-fledged member and started working from there.
And do you see yourself as part of a reformist wing, or are you part of, the party's, defending the party's traditional posture?
The party's mainstream. The party's mainstream. But, like anything, evolution is inevitable or is sclerosis. So we go in there, we look at what have we done, what can we do better? What can we do differently? Because it's not going to be, business as usual. Times change. The country is changing. Regimes have changed. We went from a dictatorship to what we are hoping to be a full-fledged democracy. So you have to adapt, you have to change, you have to fine-tune. So we are doing that, and we continue to do that.
How is the party doing that? Because, that's because of all this, fragmentation. People thought, well, having all these young people on board, Yankuba Dabo, Talib Bensouda, even Rohi Malik Low, these are all relatively young people,
Yes.
And
that is extremely important. Because, you see, UDP, we have a very strong youth policy. If you look at our National Executive Committee, more than half are youth. Central Committee, the same thing. So we have a blend of the youth and the elderly. We need that because you need an injection of new blood, new ideas into any institution, or it becomes overtaken by events. And that's sclerosis, intellectual and anything else.
Yeah, but
so when we bring in the youth, when we bring in the elderly, everybody brings something to the table. My experience as an international civil servant, my experience in development financing, my experience that I gathered from working with authorities across the continent and beyond, and the address book, I bring that to the party. Larry Sisi does the same thing. Ismail Sisi does the same thing. Not the information minister. Ismail Sisi of UDP. We bring in all of those things. Clarification important. Because yesterday I was talking to somebody and I said, what Amadou Sani? They said, oh, you criticize Amadou Sani. I said, no, not Amadou Sani, UDP, Amadou Sani, Barrow's nephew. So these things are important. So all of those people bring something different to the table. And youth are coming with fresh ideas, challenging, bold. And so particularly they bring in the vigor and the enthusiasm as well. Sometimes you have to temper that a bit, but it's important to bring that. And they bring the irreverence. So all of that is important so that you don't take yourself too seriously and you don't start getting, full of yourself. It's important to have people like that who challenge you. You see, some people tell me, oh, when you Mr. Dabo, you always call him Mr. Dabo, but when you're elsewhere you call him Usainu and the rest. I say, yeah. Because I do that because somebody has to do that so that, we keep him grounded. We don't get to a point where people start worshipping him or thinking he's too much. Yes, I have a lot of love and respect for him, but he is somebody, he's a human being, and we all have our flaws and we all can be led into things. So, yes, call him Usainu, call him Big Brother, Kotoke, call him whatever, but make sure that you don't get it to a point where you look like you are being a sycophant or you worshipping him and say, no, that will not happen. We are independent-minded and we are independent but loyal to the party. So we do these things.
What mechanisms exist within the UDP to resolve internal disputes without eroding public trust? Because now the party, faces an issue of public trust given what has played out, openly with Talib.
Yeah, but you see, even that, before answering the question, the idea of party erosion is extremely flawed. What we have is about a dozen people who have left the party, but it's done drip, 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 so you think it's a flood. It's just a small trickle that's leaving the party. More will leave, certainly. More will leave certainly because, they keep this, every now and then one or two people resign, so it looks like, the party is bleeding. It's not. It's not.
The party is not bleeding?
No, it's not. We have about a dozen people who left, that's it. The other day, last week...
You just said more will follow.
Yeah, more will follow.
And you cannot determine how many more will follow.
No, you cannot because that's a democratic process. Some will come, some will go. Okay? But just last week, 50 people, 60 people actually, joined the party from NPP and APRC and had a big meeting with them at the Manjai Bureau.
Oh, you're taking away from APRC and NPP?
Yes, we are. We are on a regular basis. And people are coming, sometimes it's whole villages that come to the party. I have been involved in 3 of those cases but some of them say, please keep this quiet because after that we are just harassed, we can't have any peace of mind. They come here, they threaten us, they try to cajole us, try to coerce us. They do all of that to keep us in the fold. But we are tired of that now.
I'm sure you know how both APRC and NPP will react to that. They will say, oh no, he's just making up things.
Yeah, exactly. They will say that. But we don't need to prove anything to them. 2026 will prove it to them. We have those people coming. Last year when we went on the tour, with Mr. Dabo, the countrywide tour, there were villages where we stopped. We didn't even have them on our program. But driving to those villages, they would stop the convoy, say, you've got to have a meeting with us here. And they would come and tell us, we apologize because we have been misled. Now we see, we did you wrong. So we are with you. We're going to vote for you next. The country is changing fast because the hardship here has made people realize what these people are saying is true. They are for the country and the others are not. UDP is for the country, fighting for the country, and has been consistently doing that for now the 30th year. The others are just enriching themselves and, we see that every day. The corruption is rampant. So people having very difficult moments in this country, nobody needs to tell them. When you go to bed, with kids hungry, or when you have 1 meal a day, or you wake up in the morning, you don't have breakfast, you have to scramble and get something at least for the kids to go to school, you know what you're living through. When you cannot meet the needs of the family, you know who to blame for that. This mismanagement in the government.